Okay, so how did you get on in the shopping list project? Hopefully you managed to come up with a solution that works in some way or another. There will certainly be parts of this project that you can do. You may have got stuck on some parts, but one thing I want to emphasize is that there is no right answer to the shopping list project. And this is why applications in the world look so different all the time, and that's because people have different ways of approaching the same problem. So our problem here is to create a shopping list application. Your code may look completely different to what I'm about to go through, but hopefully what I'm about to go through will help with areas that you may have potentially got stuck on through this project. So let's get started. First of all, I'm going to have an imports section that enables us to clear output from the screen. And we saw this a couple of videos back. So I'm going to put from ipython.display import clear underscore output. And now whenever I call clear underscore output, you'll notice that the text that's displayed to the screen will be cleared. And this will just help our application look a lot cleaner when we finally get to the end. Okay, so moving on. Firstly, we need to create a data structure that can store the shopping list items. So how did you go about doing this? Well, first of all, I'm thinking here that we should set up a variable called shopping underscore list, and we're going to set this equal to an empty list, which we know is done by putting square brackets. A list is a good option here because it's mutable, and therefore we can add things to it and remove things from it, which are features that have been requested when tackling this application. Okay, and this actually completes step 1, so very easy so far. Next, we should look to create a function to show a help menu to the user. So first of all, creating a function, we know that this needs to start with def, and then we need to provide the function a name. So for this function, I'm going to call it start underscore menu. And then I'm going to put a set of parentheses. Now for now I'm not going to include any parameters in this function call, so I can just put an empty set of brackets and then a colon. Now when we call this start underscore menu function, all I wanted to do is display some text. So first of all I'm thinking we should print what do you want to add to your shopping list. So the user straight away gets some guidance as to what we're after. I'm then also going to add another print statement, but this time I'll include a multi-line string, and I'm going to put enter done to stop adding items. And the reason I'm going to put this is that when a user puts in done into our input box that we'll create later, I would expect the application to close. They're finished using the shopping list application. I'm then going to put enter help for additional info. So if a user then puts in help into the input box, they should get a sentence or two explaining how to use the application. I'm going to put enter show to see your shopping list. So when a user puts show, they'll be able to see the items that they've added to the shopping list. And then I'm going to put enter remove to remove an item from your shopping list. And therefore when a user puts in the word remove into the input box that we'll create later, they'll be able to specify what item they want to remove from the list. After this sentence, I'm going to put a line of dashes to separate this text from the input box, and then we're done. So with this menu, we can now segregate when a user wants to stop using the app, i.e. putting done. If the user wants help with using the app, they can put help. If they want to show the shopping list, they can put show. And if they want to remove an item from the shopping list, they can put remove. If I now call start underscore menu with a set of parentheses, you can see that we get the text written to the screen. Okay, so far so good. Now the chances are you had a different way of implementing a help menu. It doesn't matter what your help menu looks like, but this is the option I went for, and it's simple print statements to the screen once the function is called. Okay, so for step 3, we need to create a function that enables a user to add an item to the list. So once again, we're creating a function. We can put def, and then we can give our function a name. So for this function, I'm going to call it add underscore to underscore list. And then I'm going to put parentheses. Now, because we're going to be adding an item to a list, we need to have some input from a user. And therefore, this function needs to take in that input from the user. So I'm going to include one parameter called item. And this will be the user's input. I can then put a colon. And the first thing I'm going to do is just normalize the value that comes in from the user's input. So I'm going to create a variable called item, and I'm going to set that equal to item.capitalize. So we're using the capitalize method on the string object, which will mean it will convert the string to start with a capital letter, and then all the other letters will be lowercase. And the reason we want to do this is because a user could put in the word apple with a capital A and also the word apple with a lowercase a. These are the same items, but if we capitalize the item first and then store that in a variable called item, it would mean that if a user put in a capital A or a lowercase a, or maybe the whole word in capitals, it will normalize it so that it starts with a capital letter and then all the other letters will be lowercase. And it just makes our code a little bit more controlled. Okay, so next we need to think that if a user is to add an item to the list, they should only be able to add it once. So we need to first of all have a conditional statement that checks to see whether an item is already included in the list. So I'm going to put if item, then I'm going to put not in shopping underscore list. And shopping underscore list is a variable that we've defined above. If item is not in the shopping list, then we want to stipulate that shopping underscore list needs to append, so we can put dot append, and then inside the append method's parentheses, we can put the variable item. After this, we can print a little sentence to the screen that gives the user some feedback, so we can put print, and inside double quotes, we'll put curly braces was added to your shopping list. We can then use the format method, and then inside the format method's parentheses, we can put the variable item. Now we can also provide some more feedback to the user, and we can tell them how many items they have on their shopping list. So let's also print you have curly braces items on your list. And we can use the format method again, but this time we want to use the len function, and inside the len function we'll pass in the shopping list, and what this will do is count the number of items in the shopping list at this point and then place it in the sentence. So if we had 2 items in the shopping list, the len would equate to 2, and 2 would be inserted where the curly braces are. So here we've got if item is not in shopping list. If this evaluates to true, the code underneath will execute. But what if the item is in the shopping list? Well, if it is in the shopping list, we can then put an else condition, and we can print to the screen, you already have that item on your list. And this gives the user feedback that they've tried to add an item that is already on the list, and rather than duplicating it, we just won't add it for a second time. So let's run this code and then try calling our function. So if we put add underscore to underscore list, and inside parentheses we put apple, you can see that we print to the screen, apple was added to your shopping list. You have 1 items on your list. Now obviously this should say item, but for the purposes of this project, I'm not going to worry about this for now. Let's call the function again. This time inside parentheses, we're going to put banana. You can then see we get banana was added to your shopping list. You have 2 items on your list. So we know that the second print function, where it's using the len of shopping list, is working accordingly. Let's now try adding banana a second time, but this time spelt with a lowercase b. So theoretically it's a different string. If I put add underscore to underscore list and then put banana with a lowercase b, you can see that we print to the screen, you already have that item on your list. And we know we do, we added it as our second item. So it seems like this function is enabling us to add items to the list, and where it already exists in the list, it tells us that we already have that item. Great, so let's keep this in our back pocket and we'll move on to the next step. In the next step, we're asked to create a function to delete an item from the list. Now thinking about this, we've just created a function that enables us to add an item to a list. What can we do that will enable us to quickly delete an item from a list? Well, to save time, I'm going to copy and paste what we've done from step 3. And rather than call the function add to list, I'm going to change this function name to be remove underscore item. Now, if I go through the rest of the code, we know we want to take in an item from the user, so we do need that parameter called item. We know we want to normalize the item so that everything is capitalized to ensure the input is consistent. And then we need to think about the conditional statements. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is change the method that we're calling on the shopping underscore list. So I'm going to change the append method to be the remove method. And if I now read it, it says if item is not in shopping list, then remove the item from the shopping list. But if it's not in the shopping list, then we can't remove it. So I also need to delete the not keyword. So I should have if item is in the shopping list, then use the remove method to remove the item from that list. I'm then going to print some sentences to the screen to give the user some feedback. So I want to put curly braces was removed from your shopping list. We can then use the .format method and put item in parentheses. And the second sentence I want to print to the screen will be the same as it was before. But this time, if we've removed an item from the shopping list, which we did 2 lines up, then the shopping list length will have changed and it will then insert the correct number where the curly braces are. Now, if a user tries to remove an item that they haven't got on the list, i.e. if this first if statement evaluates to false, then we want to have an else statement that says you do not have that item in your list. And that will then tell the user that they're trying to remove something that actually isn't on the list in the first place. So if we just take a look at what we have in shopping underscore list, you can see that we have apple and banana in the list. So let's now call the remove method to remove the value banana. So if I call remove underscore item and then inside parentheses, we'll put banana in capital letters. Let's just assume that cap locks was on for the entire word. When we run this function, you can see that we get the sentence banana was removed from your shopping list. You have 1 items on your list. And if we now take a look at the shopping list variable, you can see that we're just left with the item apple. So it's working as expected. Let's try to remove something that doesn't exist. Let's try to remove pear. You can see that when I put remove item and then pass pear into the parentheses, we get the sentence you do not have that item in your list, just as expected. So this function to remove an item is also working how we'd like it to, and we'll save this for later when we need to call it. Okay, so we're now on to step 5 of 6, so we're nearly at the end. For step 5, we need to create a function that displays the shopping list to the screen. So we're going to create another function, so therefore we need to put the keyword def. We can put show underscore shopping underscore list as the name of the function, and this function won't take any parameters in. We can simply put a colon, and then the first thing that we're going to print is my shopping list followed by a colon, and then we're going to loop through the shopping list and print each item to the screen. So we can put for item in shopping underscore list, then print item. And this is just using a simple for loop to loop through the list and print each item that it comes across. So if I run this code and then call the function, so if we put show underscore shopping underscore list with a set of parentheses, you can see that we print to the screen my shopping list with a colon, and then underneath we print all the items that are contained in the shopping list. And for this example, as it stands now, we only have the item apple. So let's add another item just to make sure this is working. So first of all, we can put add underscore to underscore list, and in parentheses we'll put cheese. You can see that when we run this code, we get cheese was added to your shopping list. You have 2 items on your list. If we now call the show shopping list function, you can see that we get my shopping list. We have apple and cheese. Perfect. It's working as expected. So up until now, we've created functions in a standalone manner. They each do a job and address a certain feature that the supermarket chain wants to see in their shopping list application. But this doesn't really help. We need to create a working shopping list program that enables these functions to be called in specific orders based on a user's input. We can't have users put in the function names because they won't know what they are, so we need to give the user a lot more guidance through our application. So in step 6, we need to create a working shopping list program using the functions above. And this is where we need to start thinking like a computer. So the first thing we want our application to do is display the start_menu function, which we know gives the user some guidance as to what they can input into the program. And this will always be run as the first item whenever this application is started. We then need to start a while loop. So we're going to put while and then we're going to put the boolean true. Now, because true will always evaluate to true, we know we're going to need to break out of this loop at some point, but we'll break out based on an input from a user, and we can worry about this later. So while true and then a colon, the first thing we want to do is accept some user input. So we'll set a variable called user_input, which will store their input, and we will set this equal to the function input. And then inside the brackets, we'll put a string which just contains a right-angled bracket with a space. And this just indicates to the user that they should be typing something to the right-hand side of this arrow. What we then want to do is check to see what the user has put into that box. So we'll put a conditional statement by firstly putting if the user_input is the same as the string done in capital letters. Then we're first of all going to clear the output that's displayed to the screen. So we can simply put clear_output and then put parentheses. And remember, this is a Jupyter Notebook specific function, but we're just trying to get our application to look good in Jupyter Notebook. After this function has been called, we want to call the start_menu function again, just so it displays itself at the top. Now, if a user puts in the keyword done, we don't want this application to continue running. So we know that they want to leave this application by putting done. So we'll first of all print see you soon, because obviously they want to leave the application. And then we can put the keyword break. And if this statement evaluates to true, we will break out of the loop at this point. Now, if the user input is not equal to done, then we can have an elif statement and we can put elif user_input equals help. Now, if user_input equals help, we can then put a colon, and the code we want to run is as follows. We first of all want to call upon our clear_output function like we did above. We also want to call upon our start_menu function just so that it's displayed at the top because it's very useful. Now, if they've put help, I'm simply going to print to the screen some help information. Now, for this purpose, I'm going to keep the sentence quite straightforward. I'm going to put type in an item into the box provided to add an item to your shopping list. And notice here I've put this in a multi-line string. So if their user input does equal help, we're then going to print this message to the screen. But what do we want to happen next? Well, we essentially want to ask the user for more input. So what we can do here is put the keyword continue. What this will do is take us back up to the start of the while loop, and this is where we are requesting input from the user, which is then stored in user_input. So after the print function, we put the keyword continue. The user will then be asked for more input, and then we can assess what they've put in. Next, we need to deal with the situation when the user underscore input equals show. So we can put elif user underscore input equals show. Then we're going to clear underscore output. We're going to start underscore menu. And then we are going to show underscore shopping underscore list and call upon that show shopping list function, which we know works as per our example above. So we're simply calling the functions that we want to be executed if a specific condition is met. Now, if that condition is met, we once again want to use the continue keyword to take them back up to the top of the while loop, and then we can continue, firstly by accepting another input from the user. Okay, so let's also now address the event where the user underscore input equals remove. So we can put elif user underscore input equals remove, and then we can put a colon. We'll first of all clear the output. We're then going to show the shopping list. So we can call upon the show underscore shopping list function. And this will be quite useful because if a user is trying to remove an item, we'd want to remind them what they have in the shopping list so they can decide what they want to remove. Once we've shown the shopping list, we need to collect another piece of information. We need to know what item they're trying to remove from the shopping list. So we'll create a variable called item, and we're going to set this equal to an input function, and then we're going to put the sentence, what do you want to remove? We can then put a question mark and a colon, and then we can put a space. So once a user has inputted an item, it will get stored in the variable item. At this point, I want to clear the output again. I want to provide the start menu again, and then I want to use our remove item function, and inside the function I'm going to put the variable item, which is what is being used to store the input of the item that they want to remove. So hopefully this should work. We can then put the keyword continue, which will take us back up to the top of the while loop, and they've now removed an item. We don't know what the user wants to do next, but our conditions above will help us decide what they want to do. So at this point, we're all good. Now the only other thing we need to do is the default scenario where they simply want to add an item to the list. Now up until this point we've exhausted the keywords that we expect a user to put in, apart from if they just put in an item. So we're going to put an else condition, and we're going to put else colon. We're first of all going to clear the output. We're then going to provide the start menu, and then we're going to call upon the add to list function. And what we're going to be doing at this point is simply using the user underscore input, which is what they put in at the very start, so it adds the item to the list. So this covers our entire shopping list application. But there's one thing I want to do. When a user puts in the keyword done and they break out of this while loop, I think it would be quite nice to display the shopping list that they have at that point. So outside of this while loop, I'm simply going to do a call on the show underscore shopping underscore list function. Now this is our shopping list in its entirety. Let's play around with it to see if it's operating the way we expect. Now just before we run this application, I'm first of all going to go to kernel, press restart and clear output. As it stands right now, our shopping list variable actually contains apple and cheese, and we don't want this pre-populated on a user's shopping list as they'll wonder where it's come from. So we're going to go to the top of our script and we're going to take out all of the tests that we've done. So we know we need the shopping list at the start. We know we need the start menu function definition. We can comment out our test of the function. We can come down, we know we need the add to list function, but we can comment out where we've put add to list apple, banana, and banana, so we'll comment these three out. We know we need the function that removes items, but we can then comment out our tests, so we can comment out shopping underscore list, the removal of the item banana, shopping underscore list, and the removal of the item pair. We don't need these in our program. We need the function definition for show shopping list. We can then comment out show shopping list. We can comment out where we've added cheese to the list, and we'll once again comment out the show shopping list. So at this point, we are ready to go. So if we now go back up to the kernel and press restart and run all, you can see that the final section of code prints the menu to the screen, and there is an input box for users to enter in their word of choice. So we're asked, what do you want to add to your shopping list? So the first thing I'm going to do is add an item, and I'm going to add some lettuce. When I press return, you can see that lettuce was added to your shopping list. Great, we have one item on the list. Let's add another item. Let's put bread. Bread was added to your shopping list. Great, we now have 2 items on the list, but let's just add a third for good measure. So we'll put kiwi. Great, so kiwi was added to your shopping list. We now have 3 items on the list. Now I forgot what we've actually put on the list, so I'm just going to put in show in capital letters to see the shopping list. Great, so my shopping list has lettuce, bread and kiwi. That's good. I actually don't want lettuce. I want to be a bit more unhealthy this weekend, so I want to change lettuce for something else. So the first thing I'm going to do is remove lettuce from the shopping list. How do I do this? Well, I can enter remove to remove an item from your list, so let's do that. When I type remove, we can see the shopping list, and then it asks us, what do you want to remove? Well, I want to remove lettuce. So if I type lettuce, you can see that lettuce was removed from your shopping list and you have 2 items on your list. Let's just quickly show the list to make sure it has been removed. Great, so our shopping list has bread and kiwi. It's working as expected. Now let's assume that someone else takes over and they're not quite sure what to do with this input box. They need some help. So let's type in help to see what we get back. When we type help, we can see that it asks us to type in an item into the box provided to add an item to your shopping list. Okay, so let's add an item. For this next item, I'm going to add cereal. Okay, great, so cereal was added. We have 3 items. Let's show the list. Okay, great, so my shopping list currently contains bread, kiwi and cereal. Now I've finished with this application. This has been very useful for help track what I want to buy this weekend. Once I'm finished, I can enter the keyword done. And then the app then shows us a message saying see you soon, and then it tells us what our shopping list is at the point when we exit the program. You can see that throughout this whole application, the output is still quite neat. It's all contained within the same space, and that's because we've utilized the clear_output function. And for me personally, I think this is something that Foodie, the supermarket chain, will really enjoy as a shopping list application. Hopefully you've followed along with my solution. Maybe you've picked up a few hints and tips as to how you can create this application. If not, go through step by step to make sure you're understanding each part of the program. The goal here is to really understand the concepts and the features that we can use with the Python language, which can then be brought together to solve problems to different problem statements. This problem statement is a shopping list, but we've got many more that we can practice in coming videos.